first time I had to man up, it was the very first time. It has to be when I was shoved to boarding school for just 2 months because it was a disaster. So, growing up and just being a, easygoing dude, just having fun and, taken care of, parents doing pretty good, mom doing pretty good, mom, not parents. Anyway, so being told, okay, you're just going to go to boarding school. And I went there, didn't shower for 2 months. Didn't brush my teeth for about a month. And just finished my provisions in like 3 weeks. So my point is, I was expected to just survive without any, without any idea of how I was supposed to. So I had to just, let me call it man up. It doesn't seem like the appropriate or the perfect example, but I'm just trying to remember exactly when my life was in my hands for the first time. It was a disaster. If I said, hey guys, this is a safe space, I'll be lying because there are cameras.
There are no safe spaces in Lagos. You're fine. There are no spaces in Lagos.
Guys, this is a safe space, we can have a conversation, but obviously that's not the case. But as it is Men's Mental Health Month, obviously this is a necessary situation that has to happen because the truth is a lot of us have been suffering and smiling. And
word to fella.
It might not even be, it's not necessarily like, financials or anything. It's also mostly because of, how do we put this? Because of the expectations. Now, in the past, before social media, right? Maybe it might have been easier. Maybe before social media, right? But now, is obviously worse because the things that you're falling short with and so on is now amplified. It seems like everybody's pointing fingers to say, hey, you are not living up to your expectations. Hey, your emotions are everywhere, you suck. Or hey, you are less of a man, right? And so
that last part.
I'm telling you, and unfortunately, it is something that a lot of us have been trying to figure out what the way forward is. Right? We are finding ways to cope with it and we're doing a terrible job.
Yep.
Right?
I agree.
Especially since vulnerability seems to be a problem. So let me even jump right to it. How vulnerable would you say you are? Let me start with you.
I'm very vulnerable.
Yeah.
I'm very vulnerable.
To what extent? 80 over 100, would you say, what would you rate yourself?
Over 100.
100 over 100.
Yeah.
Well, are you strong?
Really?
So
you've cried.
You've
cried.
just been on an experience that was impossible for me to hide certain things. So being on that show just allowed me be myself. And
okay.
If I was that and millions of people were watching, what else is there to hide?
Right.
So if you come and you ask me anything, I'll just tell you. I don't think I have anything to hide or hold back anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you're having conversations with your guys as well, I'm sure you have guy friends.
Yeah.
Right? They don't clown you. When it seems like you're like, guys, look, I woke up this morning and I felt like a sudden urge to say, I love you guys. And they will be like, stop it.
No. The kind of guys that they will shit on me. They'll be like,
that's what I'm saying, right?
Go talk, no go talk. I beg. The stress is here. But
okay.
I actually think, and I think this is just me just jumping now, but I think going on that show really did propel me in terms of how I would handle situations as a man. Because
what show is this?
Big Brother.
Okay. All right.
Right. So
it's not like I didn't.
No, it's fine.
You know what's crazy? I saw him. I'm like, I know this guy from somewhere. Was it at the gym or was he trying to steal my girlfriend or something? I can't remember. But then it was Big Brother. All right, cool.
It's
so how did it get you to get on Big Brother?
It's difficult to. How did they get me to get on Big Brother?
Yeah.
I auditioned.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Here's the hack.
Yeah.
Here's the hack.
There's a hack.
I know why.
No.
The hack is pertaining to this conversation. At the time when I auditioned for the show, right, I was at a low point in my life. Right. That's what I remember. That's the hack. So a lot of things were going bad for me that year.
Yes.
And I was at the point where I was like, okay, you know what? I can't do this anymore. And honestly, I was at the verge of applying for my master's at a school in the UK.
Okay.
Right. And I was stuck in traffic. I was stuck in Freedom Way that day. It was the last day of the audition. So I was just going through my phone and I just saw Ebuka's video. Hi guys, it's the last day to apply for everybody. I'm like, what's the worst that can happen? It's already been a shitty year already. And I just put my phone up. Ebuka said, your name, tell us about yourself, your family situation. And I just said, hi, my name is yada yada, and I just sent it.
And that was it.
That was it.
Really? I mean, it's good though, because for a lot of folks listening or watching rather, they'll realize that, oh, okay, so it's not all pre-planned. And then, you know, all the conspiracy theories behind how they do that. But I mean, that's not necessarily, I mean, that's not the conversation.
Yeah.
But the reason I asked, and you cleared it up, and not to diss or shit on the show. I'm just saying, like, you know, you seem like a chill guy. How come you auditioned and said, oh, hi,
that's
guys.
why the explanation comes in. So when I went into the house, it was a difficult experience because also I didn't used to watch the show.
Aha.
So
you didn't know what you were doing.
I auditioned for the show,
Yeah.
waiting for one final rejection so that I can finally say, okay,
I did it.
this year has been bad. Let me just go back to school or whatever. So I was waiting for that rejection actually.
Yeah.
But then it didn't turn out to be a rejection.
Oh, really? So
At
that
every
played
point in
out.
time, congratulations, next stage. Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay.
I didn't realize that I was even into the house until a week after I was in the house. The first weekend, one morning I was doing the dish and I just looked up and I saw the camera crew and I was just like,
Oh, you see them?
no.
Okay.
We move. And I was like, hold on, I'm actually here.
In here, yeah.
And by then it was already too late because the conception has already taken place, viewers already have, and so it became a struggling experience up until the end.
Like that.
I think I would say, by definition, manhood doesn't have a rigid definition. I think manhood has to be, it's probably embedded in patience and understanding, and also being able to speak out when it is important. A lot of people think being a man means you need to be strong, you need to suck it up, you know, as they say, be a man. But even by that, it doesn't really have any definition. I think by virtue of you being a man, you are still a human being too. So whatever it is that will make you feel at peace with yourself, I think that's what you should focus on. So what would I define manhood as? Anything that gives you peace at the end of the day.
So, as you know, you already look like the chairman.
Finally, someone says it.
Show me
I
now.
feel
It's
like I'm
don't be
sitting
fooled
here,
by the
you know,
hat.
I feel like, you know, maybe I should put stuff. I'm joking.
No, please.
But anyway, one of the reasons I was trying to, you know, push a similar question from what I just asked him to you as well is with you seeming from your exterior like the kind of person who has everything together. What points did you realize, yo, unconditional love is not going to be something that I can get again
I mean,
as much?
Not to be dramatic, I got told early.
Oh, you were told?
Oh, yeah.
You didn't realize it by
No,
yourself?
I didn't know by myself.
Okay,
I
so
mean,
tell me.
and this is not intended to be deep or anything.
Yeah.
So, you know, as with many people, especially that grew up in the 80s and 90s, it seemed like there were a lot of non-residential fathers. Do you get what I mean? You know that your dad was your dad, but was not in a household.
Okay.
You know, you were pretty much raised by your single mom. And I had a phone call. My dad lived in the UK. I lived in Ibadan. And for the longest time, I just couldn't put it together. Why are you in the UK and why am I in Ibadan? Go jail now, you know? And then we had a conversation on the phone. I was asking him for something, sneakers, I think. And I said, dude, I don't owe you anything. No, you're 13 years old. I don't owe you anything.
Oh boy.
And I'm like, and it was a bit
You don't
difficult
owe you
for me.
anything. You're 13 years old.
Yeah,
That's what he said.
yeah, figure it out. I did the same myself. You know, I sent myself to school. Boom, 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 boom. So it was tough for me to reconcile that with my mom, who gave everything that I could see. So how are you telling me that I don't owe you anything?
Yeah.
So at 13, perhaps I didn't understand it to the fullest extent of it, but I knew then that, no, this thing that you're getting from your mom, you are not getting it from your dad. Therefore, you are not going to get it from the rest of the world. So unfortunately for me, I had a growth spurt.
Okay.
And I became really very tall very quickly. So seemed like everybody looked to me like, so if we're going to skip school and play games, everybody looked to me.
To see
like,
what
now who's jumping the fence first? It was me. You know, so I kind of like sort of like embraced it and
Being responsible just like that.
responsible is stretching it, because if you are jumping fence, you are not being responsible. But being the guy, you know, being the guy. So yes, it helped me get an exterior.
Okay.
My wife used to call me Eclairs because you have a very strong exterior and you're just soft in the middle. Nobody's going to get to see what's in the middle. Without saying a word, one, you have to figure shit out by yourself. 2, it's okay to ask for help. 3, there's always a tomorrow. You know, whatever it is that you can't fix today, you have a chance to right it tomorrow.
How long have you been married?
10 years this year.
10 years this year.
Yeah.
No, I asked that because you brought up, or you had mentioned how, you know, at 13, you were shoved into just, okay, this is what I must do, this is how I must stay. And then, you know, your wife, I think, like, she's like your pillar of support.
Oh,
in
yeah,
a way.
yeah.
So let me ask, on a scale of 1 to 10, how vulnerable would you say you are with your
At a scale of
wife?
1 to 10, I'll put it at maybe a 3.
3?
Yeah, at this point in my life.
Okay.
I was going to say
No,
3
but,
as well.
but you said at this
point,
point,
yes.
at 10 years?
At 10.
So do you feel it's going to improve? Sorry, this is not about you.
So
yeah.
I met her when we were barely 20. So we've pretty much grown up together in that period.
Okay.
So that's why I said at this point, you know, there are times in the past that I've been very vulnerable.
Okay.
You know? But again, so that I saw that to me, you know, being that level of vulnerable was putting the pressure on the next person. And in my head, I couldn't do that to her. That's how I still think of things today. You know, I'm this 6'4" guy, heavy set, you know, bearded, balded. I cannot put whatever pressure it is that I have on this dainty lady who is dealing with her own stuff as well.
Yeah.
You know, so I really don't allow myself to be vulnerable like that. And again, what's being vulnerable?
I like the fact that you said you don't allow.
That's what, so I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
What's being vulnerable, to be honest,
So,
right? You just want somebody to rub your head and say, no, it's okay, it's going to be fine.
Is it?
It's not going to be fine. I'm sorry for being morbid.
Yeah.
It's not going to be fine. And I think I've made peace with that. Life is not going to be fair. So just choose the one that you can deal with. Allow yourself a whiskey or two, sleep it off, get on your grind the next day.
So that's interesting, and it looks like you've already come up with a solution with.
Oh, yeah.
So do you find other ways to be more vulnerable beyond just your wife? So you know, I asked 3/10 with your wife. So let me ask in general. So in general, with anything else, how vulnerable are you?
I try not to be.
You try not to be.
I try not to be. Again, because I know that everybody is dealing with their kettle of fish, right?
Okay.
There's that.
I've had instances that I've spoken to people. So, an egbon of mine, who I spoke with when I was having some financial trouble, like, Omo, if it's what I'm dealing with, man, I'm indebted to like 2 billion. And I'm like, dude, man, I only need 1 or 2 billion. Where's 2 billion coming from?
Yeah.
You know? So, in my head, everybody has what they're dealing with. If you think that somebody is going to be there for you unconditionally or be at the space, because I've had time that people wanted me to do stuff for them, and I just wasn't in a position to do it. Somebody was still asking me, and I'm sorry to bring this up, somebody was asking me yesterday for 1 million naira loan. I said, okay, give me a few weeks, let me ask people. And the person was like, no, I know you could do it if you wanted to. And I'm like,
If you wanted to.
yes. That's why I left the conversation. Like, how do you think? So I know that there are people that we look at and just imagine that, I could be this with that person.
Yeah.
Maybe that person is not even in the space to help you, you know, and then you'll be disappointed twice. So it's better, suck it up, get it going.
It is. I mean, obviously, I'm pretty sure everybody has different takes on that.
His side.
I like that because from his perspective, he already broke it down as to how his own vulnerability. So it almost seems like it's opposites.
I think I'm blessed enough to be aware that I'm not alone in this world. Whatever it is, that is a higher power, God, the Lord of Mary, whatever it is. I know that I'm protected at all times, so I'm pretty much safe in my skin all the time. So nothing phases me, nothing shakes me. I just did.
What's your coping mechanism?
What's right? I'm thinking about it. Do I have? I don't think that I have. I know that I have moments that I'm pretty just withdrawn to myself. But that can only last a few hours anyway, because
Or days.
you know I cannot afford this. Me,
Oh yeah.
I cannot afford this, right? So I pretty much I know that I withdraw into myself. I don't sleep much, you know. According to my mother and my wife, I drink a bit much. I don't agree with them, but yeah, that's pretty
what you
much
have
it.
to do.
I think I don't think resigned is the word, right? But I'm pretty much okay with whatever it is.
So what's the relationship with your dad?
Unfortunately, it's past now.
Did you get any closure before you did?
No, I did not, and that stings. Again, not to be morbid, because it just kicked off a series of things in my life.
Okay.
Between 2020 and 2024, I lost my dad, my younger brother, and my son.
Yo, that's heavy. Sorry.
Do you get what I mean?
That's heavy. Yeah.
So, I think that I've not even had. So each time I feel like I'm finally over a hump,
There's
Something
another-
else.
something else,
Yeah.
and something else. So I'm like, fuck it, man. I'm good.
Yeah.
Whatever happens, happens. You know, however the ball for whatever, I'm good with it.
But so what it feels like is you're in motion, right? You're
Yeah.
in motion. Now, unfortunately, with life, when you're in motion like that, the moment you stop, everything starts coming
Exactly.
back, right? So are
Exactly.
you not
So-
afraid that when
which
it
is
happens,
why-
it'll be overwhelming?
I do not stop.
Okay.
My last bereavement,
Yeah.
a bunch of my guys had reached. I'm like, dude, do you want to speak to somebody? I cannot, because if I'm speaking about this one thing, I have to unpack the previous one,
The other things.
and then that other one. I know within myself that I'm not
Yeah.
ready.
So what about in small doses though?
That's a trick. Once you allow small dose, you get the next milligram and the next dose and the next one.
And it
So
goes higher.
you are right. And again, I'm not lying to myself. I know that there are things that I have to walk through. When I am going to be able to, I do not know. And because I do not know, I have the presence of mind to not stop in the moment, get through the next one. Fortunately, I live in Lagos that Wala is every day.
It can distract
There's
you
something.
from all of that.
Oh yes, I'm heavily invested in involved in my estates resident association, whatnot. So
So it
Yeah.
almost seems like you try to keep yourself busy
Yes.
just so that you can
Yes.
find your. But
If-
how does this? Sorry,
Yeah.
how does that? There's no way. And sorry, I
No,
hate
please
to just
on.
put it that way. The relationship with your wife, because obviously
I
the way
wanted to touch
with
on
the way
that.
it feels like whoever she's with,
Yeah.
like you that she's with, if she's accepted that you're closed off, because I'm getting the impression.
so that's
that
the
you're-
thing.
Yeah.
I don't think that I'm closed up with her.
Okay.
I'm not. Like she's my guy.
Are you sure?
Yeah,
Like,
she's
is
my
this
guy.
your perception, or since
No,
you're
no.
not exactly, you only threw about
Well,
as
so-
vulnerable as you said before.
Because I don't think that vulnerability is all that, to be honest, and that's just me.
Okay, I mean, we'll unpack. That's what we're
Do you
here.
get?
We're unpacking.
You know, I think
There's a lot
it's-
to unpack
I think
and figure out.
but she's my guy. You know, I do not lie to her.
Okay.
Do you understand? Even with minor and major things, I do not. There are times that I defer telling the truth. There's a slight difference, semantics.
There's a difference.
But do you get what I mean? So I, again, because of the most recent thing that we have to deal with,
Yeah.
she's raw, she's going through her thing herself.
Yeah.
She has nobody else but me. Therefore, I cannot allow myself, you know, to be stopped in my tracks. Because at the end of the day, after I finish feeling whatever feels that I'm feeling,
Yeah.
There's still
You still have to take care of her feelings.
do you understand? And I
there's
like
still
having
that.
her in my life. It's not like I want her out of it. So
Yeah.
whatever it takes for me to help her get over that day, I'm okay with it.
We have to. I mean, there's a lot of spin-offs, and,
Right.
You know, coming back, circling back, and so on. But we'll get to that. So,
Yes,
Wale,
sir.
what prompted this originally was asking about that particular moment when, you know, you started feeling the pressure. Like, okay, I mean, man, when unconditional love seemed like a fantasy. Obviously not recently. Obviously not recently. You know?
So there are two scenarios. The first one was when I mistakenly found out that The person I called my elder sister was actually my mom.
Oh,
Wow. Ouch.
I need a drink for that.
or your
Yeah,
bar.
you know. Sure.
That's
It's funny that we're saying cheers to that particular type of bombshell, but
Bro,
that's how we do it.
Again,
I mean, that's how
That's how we deal with it.
there was
you know?
there was no warning. A lot of people that are close to me don't actually even really know.
Yeah.
But I grew up having in my head a mom, dad, siblings, and I grew up as the last born. I didn't get a chance to be spoiled because I was the last. I just knew that okay, now maybe last born for house bar. I know how and we go, you get. And then fast forward, growing, experiencing, growing with a bunch of. I grew up in a 3-bedroom flat that's at the most had about 13 people. Coming in and out. So I had uncles who weren't even uncles. I had aunts who weren't really aunts.
Wow.
But I had steady people who were, I found out later, were my grandparents. They were there, my mom, my dad, who were actually my grandparents. And then fast forward to SS2 and I'm like, wait, though. So now you're my mama. And then I grew up seeing her as my mom. And then so the people who I called my parents were my grandparents. And I'm like, what the okay, no, I didn't even know. I didn't know how to
You wouldn't know how
I
to-
didn't know. I was in SS2.
Breakdown.
Were you told or you found out?
I found out. That's what I said. I mistakenly found out.
So, okay.
It wasn't supposed
So
to
it wasn't
happen.
a case of, oh, sorry, Wale, you're adopted.
No.
It's, you just found out by
I found out by mistake. And how I found out, when I play it in my head, I'm like...
Did you confront them?
So it was much later. I didn't ask anybody. And then my mom had moved to the UK. My mom moved to the UK when I was in primary 3, 4. And then night post used to be very effective. So I just took the evidence that I found, put it in a letter, wrote everything in my head, and I posted it. About 2 weeks later, her sister came, and then I was a heady kid. And she was like, when you finish washing the car, come upstairs. In my head, I'm like, guy, waiting you do, waiting you don't do now. You don't go fuck up, Abi. And I finished walking to the flat. Remember, 3-bedroom flat.
Yeah.
And my grandparents were there. My mom's younger sister, both of them were crying. And she was just like, straight face. And I'm like, why are you crying? This one is having a straight face. And then that's when they told me, that, okay, so you wrote a letter to, my sister. Yeah, so, the way she broke the news shocked me and didn't shock me. And thinking about it now, I do not know how I did not lash out. I did not...
You were what, 14, 15 years old?
Yeah, I didn't...
I mean, because to lash out, I
wasn't
guess
even
maybe even, and also even just with the way, unfortunately, a lot of our upbringing has been, lashing out at that age is
disrespect. You understand?
So you almost have to measure your reaction,
and
which is now not exactly as satisfying as it should be, or even would help you feel better about the situation. I mean, that's
Can I ask
huge.
a question?
Please ask.
Yeah.
ask.
Do you have trust issues now?
Oh, that's.
He's not married, by the way, and it's likely older than I am.
Aha.
Do I have trust issues? I don't want to say I do, but I have very low expectations of people.
When you think about it, that's not something you can wrap your head around.
I don't. If you mess up, okay. If you disappoint me, I won't feel disappointed. I'll be like, nah, man, you be. Let's go.
Yeah, it's all good.
All right, it's all good. And yes, I said this. I did say it was a 2-scenario thing. It was actually 3.
Yeah.
So the first scenario was realizing the woman I called my sister was actually my mom. I was in SS2. And then fast forward to 200 level, meeting my father for the first time. And I'm like, you know. Sorry.
Yeah.
Can I get a refill, please? So I'm older now, and I still don't know. I've not had, yes, please. I've not had a proper conversation with my mom and my dad. But somehow, if you ask me, have you healed? I don't know what healing is. I don't know what unpacking is.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I've just had to handle myself. The sweet part.
Yeah.
The guys I grew up with, thank you. The kids I grew up with,
Yeah.
they all knew.
It's affecting me, so I need.
Time out. Sorry. Did you just say the kids you grew up with?
Kids I grew up, they knew who my mom was, but I didn't know.
But you didn't know.
I didn't know.
Oh, that's trust. Your trust issues would have just been destroyed.
I didn't know. See, look, no one asked me anything. No one asked me how I felt. No one has asked me till today.
Yeah.
And I found out what actually happened between my mom and my dad when I moved to Ibadan. Interestingly, or maybe ironically, both of them grew up in Ibadan. I didn't, So imagine having to move to Ibadan and then, I find out, so that's how it happened, yeah? Oh, something I've held inside for too long. I am enough. I've always had this mindset or picture in my head that I'm not enough, I'm not good enough. But I've come to that point in my life where I'm like, I'm a speck. I am enough. I am good at what I do. And I have surrounded myself with people who believe in me. And they have lifted me at points when I didn't even believe in myself. So Wale, I am enough.
Yes, sir, gentlemen. Oh, there's another.
So the conversation continues. Another beautiful news
Another
spread.
spread.
Awesome.
Well, just so that we don't lose the energy that we were with before. So, Adekunle, I was asking, right, because we had gotten a very good. Let me rephrase. We had gotten something really interesting regarding, what's like growing up and how it actually got them to become what they are today. I mean, become what you guys are and so on. For you, the influence growing up, right? How would you describe how that has shaped you? Any particular type of trauma that made Adekunle as vulnerable as you present?
I don't even think my trauma was from my childhood experience.
Okay.
I mean, maybe some parts of it, because my parents are separated. And, just grew up with my mom doing her thing.
Okay.
But for some weird reason, I think I was self-aware enough as a child just to be able to separate myself from that. So one thing I told myself was, both of them are older than me, right? It makes no sense for me to want to stress myself trying to figure out what they want to do. If this is how they want to live their life, that's fine. Let them do that.
Yeah.
So one of the things that experience did to me was, I grew up in a Yoruba family. Somehow everybody is always just kind of connected. So it was a case of uncles and aunties and loved ones saying, you're the first child, you're the man of the house now. I'm a child. What do you mean I'm the man of the house, right? Yeah. But also, there was not enough experience or lessons to figure out what that was. It was just a case of, okay, this is the assignment you've been given, just run with it. A lot of people who got to know me from Big Brother experience would say, so when I was in the house, most people said I was 40, right? Because I was acting like an old man, right?
Yeah.
and you're only in the house for 71 days. You don't have the opportunity to tell everybody who you are. I have my own personal experiences. I didn't go on the show to go and start saying everything. Let me know what I had to go through. So I grew up very early. I became an adult very early on in my life. And I think at some point when it became too much, I started asking questions. And it's very interesting. Finding out from my dad, because I wanted to also understand why he made some of the decisions that he made and why everything happened the way it happened.
Yeah.
And very weird ass story. My dad he told me something that I held on to. So he has 6 siblings. He's the last boy.
Okay.
And he said there was a point in time when he was younger. My dad is the extroverted version of me. He walks into a room, everybody lights up the room and all that. So he said when he was younger, he had raised money. I think he started working very early on. He had financed himself to schooling in America. He wanted to study journalism.
Wow.
Yeah. And his siblings found out, right? And they found a way to tell their dad
Not to allow him.
not to let him go. Wow. That's not the interesting part. My dad said, okay, and he went to America.
Just did it.
He just went to America. So you can imagine a time where there were no mobile phones. Everybody's looking for you.
And
They're probably thinking you're in the next house or something, meanwhile you're in America.
That's gangsta.
So,
I swear.
so I held on to that, okay, I obviously did not have the opportunity to grow up with this man. I'm not really going to let that weigh me down or affect me, or just, I will take whatever lessons or experiences that I can get from how he lived his life. Whichever one was bad, I would take the lesson and try to fix up on it. And whichever one was good, so okay, you see how that goes. But I think the Big Brother experience is something like everybody should have. Maybe not Big Brother itself, but just being in an enclosed environment, because it does help you. Well, we're expecting some people.
More people. All right. This is looking good.
Because the house lets you go through. It lets you discover yourself in a different dynamic.
I hear you boys.
Hanging out just with some good food and good alcohol. So please grab a seat.
And you have to do. Very well,
How you doing?
Right, sir.
Hello, sir.
I'm doing. Yeah, good to see you guys.
Jide.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Thank you.
So what should we hook you up with?
No problem.
We good?
Thanks,
Okay. Yeah. So he was just talking about his experience with growing up and how him not being able to have that strong relationship with his dad might have influenced him. Okay, looks like you have more. Yes. All right, should be interesting stuff.
More people.
Hey,
Hi.
how's it going, man?
I'm good.
All right, come through.
Hi guys.
Hi. Don't be worried. This is not a setup. We're not trying to set anybody. Right. It was unplanned. Okay.
We move.
So, I hope you're in the position to, express yourself and, tell us what's really going down with a lot of things, especially since it's mental health month, Men's Mental Health Month. And we're basically unraveling some very interesting things about growing up and how, our childhood experiences has shaped us as men as we are right now. For example, we got some very, a deep dive into some very traumatic experiences that some of us probably still think about when we go home today because it was, pretty intense. But just so that it doesn't seem like we're going around in circles, right? Let's identify something that's like healing. Did somebody just knock the door?
There's somebody else.
There's someone at the door.
Okay, cool. It's going to be very,
Please
very,
come in.
very experienced.
Or you want to walk them in?
We have to.
Oh, okay. Wale Shola.
Good workouts. The more the merrier. All right. How's it going, man?
I do.
Cool.
Hello.
Sweet.
Now
grab a
what
seat.
I do for you.
How you doing, sir?
Big vibes, my G. Big
Yeah,
vibes.
plenty drinks.
Sir, how are you, sir?
Oh no, how you doing? Good to see you again.
Big man.
Ozoli.
Wagwan, bro.
My man.
Wagwan.
Thanks for joining us.
So, you came at the right time because right now, knowing as it is it's not necessarily a circle since it's an arc.
Well,
it's like
we're almost there.
right? I was gonna say circle of men, but
It feels like a safe space now.
it doesn't feel like
It feels like a safe space.
for us to, ignore the cameras. But anyway, what we were trying to identify was, because we had talked about very interesting things, right? We're thinking to just jump straight to healing, how everybody deals with, the issues that they're going through, their methods. I hate to point Jide out.
No, it's allowed.
Right?
You're welcome.
But Jide, for example, is almost averse to talking about his feelings. And I'd like to take on that. So just so we fully understand how that now works for you, because I want to assume that a lot of people feel like maybe top 3 or even number 1 of one of the ways to deal with trauma is to talk about it, right? To express yourself.
Right.
So what do you do to replace that? What's your own version of healing?
I don't think about it that process, consciously.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Again, because speaking about it sort of like gives it life, and this is me.
Okay.
I'm not holding it in, but what's speaking about it going to do? Do you understand? It's not going to fix anything. To me,
It will.
right?
It actually will.
I mean, hey,
So this is what I think, right?
Yeah.
Most times when we are talking about some of the things we are dealing with, we think that talking about it in that moment will provide a solution in that moment. Meanwhile, you just saying it out loud,
Is the solution.
the solution will come to you by yourself. It might not be in that moment, but because you said it out, maybe you are driving, maybe you are in the bathroom, maybe you are working on something, you are thinking about it. Because sometimes when we suppress our thoughts, it stays in there. But saying it out, I mean, as you said, right, you pretty much figured out everything by yourself. There's nothing anybody wants to tell you that you don't already know. When I'm saying something to you, I'm not really looking for you to give me an answer. I'm actually looking to find the answer myself. So sometimes, and I think that's why therapists just listen. Because in talking about it, you find your own solution by yourself.
Right.
So, and I think maybe that's one misconception most men have, because a lot of people are not vulnerable. Most people don't want to open up. It's not so that you will say the darkest secrets that you have and somebody would use it against you. It's just so that you would introspect by yourself. Because at the end of the day, you are the one that actually knows where the pain is. Somebody else is just coming from a theoretical perspective that, okay, if you do this way, maybe. But you are the one that will, it might be after you've had the conversation, you're driving back home and you're just like, oh, that's actually true. I'll give you an example. I shouldn't say this because I haven't announced it, but Hakuna Matata.
Man. I mean, anybody diving in, what's going on?
So I have a fashion brand.
Yeah.
Right. I make textile. Adenrele.
Oh.
Right. I started it in 2015. But Adenrele had not picked up at the time. In 2019, when Adenrele started to pick up, I tapped out of it. I'm like, you know what? I'm not doing Adenrele anymore. Now, between 2019 and now, everybody now wears Adenrele. Right? And for me, everybody who knew when I started that, they were like, how are you not in this industry now? And I'm just like, I know so much. Like, if I'm about to do it now, venturing into it, it will take a lot from me that I'm not ready for. Yeah, and a friend of mine, one of my close friends, he just sent me a message randomly. He's not in Nigeria. And he just said, how far this your Adenrele business? And I'm like, man, I'm not really sure about it. And he was like, why don't you do it this way? And the moment he said that, I realized that was actually the reason why I started.
In the first place.
So he didn't need to say anything. It was just oh, that's true. And I now have a solution to that problem. He didn't have to say anything.
So in you just basically expressing, you're saying you're not looking for a solution, but just putting it out there, it came. It's like the same thing, maybe you're chilling with your guys and you're like, oh, man, by the way, nobody asked you. You're like, man, I've just had this tire issue or something, right? You just said it, right? And then somebody listening will be like, guy, why don't you? And the reason you might actually feel like, as opposed to reaching out to your friends to tell them, man, guy, can you help me a tire issue? It's still the same issue with us having an adverse, opinion when it comes to actually being vulnerable. Do you feel this vulnerability, right, that we're referencing, do you feel is unnecessary? And also, do you feel when it comes to what the current state is now compared to,
Back in the day,
do you feel the difference is like what could be what is actually making it more difficult for people to deal with their mental health issues?
That's deep, huh? That's deep. Yeah, only good, Jerry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think back in those days, because for instance, if I look at my own situation, I grew up in a polygamous setting.
Dynamics.
Yeah. So, and those days, no social media. Even it's difficult for you to get a mentor that you can unburden your mind.
Yeah.
So we grew up like, oh, you need to man up on a lot of stuff. So, and it didn't really help. It didn't really help. But my own coping mechanism
Yes.
has always been, okay, I will, if I have the issues, I'll say, okay, I need to prioritize.
Okay.
What's within my control, I worry about. What's outside my control, I pack it aside. And not my immediate elder sister, there's one sister between us, she's older. She's got God blessed her with a lot of wisdom. And then most of the time, turn to her to seek advice. And she has this very unique way of breaking stuff down and then calming the situation. Yeah. And it also helped me to also help friends. And I have a friend also like that who I can unburden out to talk to about anything. And the guy also does same to me. So it's like we share problems and then we look for solutions, ways to really sort it out. But the one that is compelling for me is how to really look at what you can control. You worry about it and then you do something about it. And the ones that is outside your control, you just...
So very quickly, at what point did you realize? Because it's like how they say, never worry about things out of your control. It is. At what point did you realize this and made it like part of your life? And how long have you been doing it for? It's basically the same question.
I think as far back as when I was in primary school.
Primary school.
Mad.
So does that suggest? So does that suggest your relationship with your parents compared to what most people your age would have experienced was actually much better? Because primary school, you didn't get it from your friends.
No.
So I'm assuming you got it from your parents.
See, okay. Let me tell you a bit about my relationship with my parents.
Yes.
In actual fact, my dad should have been my grandfather.
Oh.
Should have been my grandfather. Okay.
Am I allowed?
You know what?
I'll shut up.
He became a circumstantial polygamist. And what do I mean by that? Is that, when he married his first wife, there were no kids for about 5-7 years. And a decision was taken by his own parents, his mom especially, to say, okay, if you're having childbearing issues like that, you need to take in another wife to open the gateway for the way for the first wife.
Okay.
And they did that, but before the new wife came in, the first wife got pregnant, and the second wife that came, up until she died, she remained a barren. And my dad confirmed that he married her as a virgin, but she never had a kid till.
Oh, wow.
So by the time he married my mom, the age gap between my mom and my dad was about 25 years.
25.
So your mom was the third?
Third, the youngest. I think he must have married her at age 17 or 18. So she was so very young.
Mad.
So by the time, and she gave
They had
birth.
you after how many years?
No, not me, because she gave birth to about 7 of us.
7.
Seven. The third wife.
So the age gap between you and your dad,
Yeah. It's
yourself
about-
and your dad would be like.
My dad,
50 at least.
My dad died at 88, 2003. So I'm 61 now.
Okay.
So you can do the
Look
math.
great for
No, you look like you're in your 40s.
It was 88
Cheers.
2003.
Cheers.
That was like 21.
So obviously the
21
relationship
years
with your
ago.
dad, you technically didn't have a relationship.
No, not really.
You couldn't have had
You
that.
couldn't
that-
have. You couldn't
what
have.
we call it.
Not really. Every man deserves peace because, in my experience, every time I come to the home setting in particular, one of the best things that can happen to you is to have a peaceful home front. And all the peace that you actually need is at home. You probably don't need peace, maybe in your work environment or even within your peers, because at times peace is not so good when you are among friends. So you guys should be able to debate issues, argue, and then agree to disagree. But where peace is mostly required, from my experience, I think it's at home. If you have peace at home, then you don't know what you have.
Do you feel this generation is a little too sensitive?
Actually, yes,
Thank you.
I believe so.
Yes.
Because
I think it's
No. I wanted
to.
Which generation are we talking about?
Every generation thinks that the following generation is too sensitive.
sensitive.
That's right.
Yeah. So what?
I know, there was a generation
what
that
are some
was
of the
like
things-
one.
Mama? So
Yes,
what are
we
some
don't
of the things
fight
that you
well.
That's what I'm
feel
saying.
Sorry,
They see us as being too sensitive. Then we see Gen Z as being too sensitive.
Yeah.
Gen Z are going to see Gen Alpha as being too sensitive.
yeah.
So what are the things what things you feel like that's in culture, imbibed in culture, or that we should still be holding on to that we're trying to let go of? Before I get to Laru.
Well, I think it's a delicate balance.
Okay.
It's a delicate balance. But like I said, I also believe that there are things that maybe we overemphasize or maybe a kind of
We're overstimulated by some
yeah.
unnecessary.
That little thing has traumatized. This, life happens. And there has to be a way by which you can find coping mechanism without actually, what word am I looking for? Without actually,
Spirally.
Having a mental breakdown.
Yeah, having a mental breakdown
something
or-
like that. Because now,
Over-exaggeration.
exaggeration. Because now, the kind of values that we grew up with, although I find some of them a bit stifling, but I do. But what I find also concerning is nowadays our society is tending too much towards giving too much attention to feelings and emotions. Too much attention. Because there are things that, you need to accept that life, whether you like it or not, life will
I'm agreeing with him. Adekunle is giving me the dirty eye.
You know what I know? You know what? The young folks watching the series is to talk about it. I think from everything that has been indicated, talk about it. Because beyond just talking about it, also you'd realize opening up, you might actually even make more friends that way. And also you never know who could share something about their own life experience that makes you realize that, okay, I wasn't as unique or, isolated as I thought I was, because this person is going through the exact same thing. So it's important to talk about it, with whoever, just talk about it. So let me with our conversation regarding the advice that we'll give, because look, not everybody is qualified to advise, as they say. Not everybody is. But then, from your experience, let's say you have your younger self. Yes, let me put it that way. So, if you could say to your younger self, right, to help you deal with some of the things you dealt with, what would you say?
To my younger self,
An interesting question.
I do not know.
Oh, wow.
Because I say this because someone once asked me, have you had a conversation with your folks? Have you healed? I don't know. For what I went through and some of the things I went through, which were part of the stupid things I did, I do not know if I've, as they say, gotten closure. Or if I have healed. I don't know. I know, one thing I know is this. I have the people who call me their friend are more than they try. Because I know get sense.
All of us, I guess.
Okay? Because at the
Yeah.
end of the
I
day,
get what he means,
because I
you have low expectations of people, so you don't.
I don't when the guys who are close to me and they say, oh, you're good at this, you're this, and I'm like, what the fuck? Me, like they mad, like no, so to my younger self and anyone who's watching this, I beg you, if you can, select people who will never judge you, but would always tell you the truth.
I like that.
Because get as he won't be. Putin, they've killed Ukraine. Israel is knocking Iran. You would always be the human being in your story. And you need people who would always, they may not necessarily always hold your hand. They may not necessarily always, prefer solutions or recommendations. But the fact that they allow you be you in their midst
is soothing enough.
And shout out to some people who, if I do wedding, there are people who I would have.
At the high table.
These
What do you
are
mean by if you do it? But go on.
when I do wedding, when I get married, there are certain people.
Something we want to open.
There are certain people I know for a fact that there are people who
Nah, you good, man. You got this, man.
there are people who I don't know why. I don't know why, but somehow they've taken it upon themselves to just be like, you be my guy. We date together. You fuck up, you do right.
You're my
We
guy.
date together. And it has helped me not focus on childhood traumas. Discovering, the best way they call your sister and your mama, you don't reach second year and your popsy be this. I hardly think of it, except when once in a while. And when that happens, I was like, with that WhatsApp group, say, hey, I found out what did happen now. Will they come out today? That has helped me be better. And I'm not where I need to be, but am I on that path?
It's getting you there. You're on the right path. People.
Yeah, there are people who have put me on that has helped me financially. There are people who have put me on that has helped me emotionally. There are people who have put me on and has helped me career-wise. There are people who have said stuff when I'm not there in a room where I should be, and people will be like, I did for one meeting and person mention your name. You sabi this person? No. But the person say you did this one for that. I'm like, oh shit, I forgot. Me doing that was not because I wanted to. It was probably someone did the same thing to
Just paid it forward.
and I just paid it for without thinking. So shout out to people who call me.
My guy. You're allowed.
Well said, man. Well said. Very well said. Like that. So, I mean, I would like to put mine. I think for me, it is. I would just say, if I could talk to my younger self, I would just say, it'll be all right. It'll be all right. Do you know what I mean? Because even for now, speaking about like friends and like as you mentioned, people that put you on, I think my own trauma response was cutting people off. So I'm one of those. What I know how to cut people off. What like this and I do it with pride, And then even just like my career, for example, I know how it could have blossomed and how things could have just been amazing. But then not my people skills necessarily, but friends. The only friends I have right now, a lot of them have jackpot. and the ones that are even around. You know, because when you mentioned, I was going to interrupt, but I just didn't want to. Because when you said, "Oh, those friends," it's very important. Like, I didn't know how much, you know, them not being around was going to affect me, because, you know, you grew up with these guys, so I didn't have to make friends. I just held on to them, you know, because I don't really know how to make friends as good as I should. So I held on to them as, okay, this is where I'm going to get solace from. And then all of them jackpot. Do you know what I mean? So what happens? Like, I find myself just feeling, maybe that's why I had the time to say, hey, I'm going to be a vegetarian and blah, because maybe if they were around, they'd be like, Shola, are you crazy? What you know?
Let's go eat,
You know, like that. But, you know, so, but I mean, it did help because I was able to try and understand myself. But yes, I think valuing friendship and valuing connections is something I would definitely do a bit more.
Yeah.
And then, just, you know, because right now it gets harder, but, you know, we'll figure it out. You know? So, well, to your younger self, beyond the WhatsApp group.
Man, it's an interesting question, and I think it's a bit, for me, it's a bit complicated. I think that my younger self was a yeoman. It was good. Probably even better than I am now, to be honest. Right? Because when I was younger, I think I learned very quickly that I needed to be responsible for myself, and that informed a lot of the activities that I engaged in. Because of my background. My great-grandfather was the only child of his parents. My grandfather was the only child of his mom. My father was the only child of his parents. And so when I was born, before they even gave birth to me, there was a lot of drama. You know, my father had finished uni, started messing with my mom, and they had gone to the same secondary, so I don't know how they kept in touch. Still don't know that story till today. I've been saying I will ask them, but you know, somehow they kept in touch, and my mom got pregnant, and her parents didn't want her to marry my father, and it was a whole thing. And they eventually got married, and even in the wedding pictures, you could see my maternal grandfather was frowning the entire time. He was not happy. You could see, like, we still have the pictures today, and you could see that the man was just like, you know. And so I was born a month after, and we lived with my grandparents.
They cut it really close.
They did. My mom was 8 months pregnant when they got married. I was born a month after. We lived with my paternal grandparents in a face me, I face you house in the ghettos of Ibadan. Right? I grew up in Oluyore Okiofa. Oremeji, That's where I grew up.
Oh, wow.
To be fair, acknowledging my privilege, my grandfather owned the house that we lived in, but it was like a face me, I face you house. So we had like over 20-something families, different people. One person will rent one room, self-contained, another person had a room and parlor with like husband and wife, and like maybe 3 or 4 children. And it was just a barracks of sorts, right? So my life was a constant struggle between what my grandparents wanted for me, because they had my father after like several years, maybe like 10 years of marriage. So my grandmother felt like she was growing too old and she needed to see us start getting, or me, when I was born. I ended up not being the only child. I have a younger brother, and a younger brother who's like a little less than 3 years younger than me, and a younger sister who's like 15 years or so younger than me. But my life was the experiment for my siblings, for them to know how to deal with my siblings. And what I also found out was that a lot of the things that my mother had to go through because of the kind of, so our family did not really support her, because my grandparents on the maternal side did not want her to marry into. And then on the paternal side, my grandparents, led by my grandmother, really wanted to dictate how my life went. They wanted me to grow up quickly, get married, blah, blah, blah. So a lot of that resentment from my mom being in that situation was projected onto me. So I suffered a lot, right? I mean, up until maybe like 5-7 years ago, I was not friends with my mom. It was when we eventually like dissected the whole issue. It took us a long process. That she eventually apologized for everything. Like, I had experiences. My mom once told me that if she had known, that she should have aborted my pregnancy without telling anybody.
Wow.
Said that to me.
I mean,
At what age did you hear that?
bro.
I was maybe 2004, late 2004. So I was born in 87. So I was like maybe whatever, I don't know. 04. Maybe 16.
I mean, you know, that must have added to the relationship with your mom.
Yeah. So My younger brother was the golden boy.
17.
Right? I was a control experiment. It was the
He was
I like to say that. It was the
The soft landing.
Exactly. It was the this is how it should be. This one, we have seen how this one has
No bother.
you understand?
You are the
So-
unplanned.
Yes, I was the plan, exactly. So he had a better relationship with my mom. My mom, like I had experiences where my mom would. So again, my life was very complicated. When I got into secondary school, I wrote the common entrance exam when I was 8 years old. My mother was like, "You got the form for me. Just try your hands at it, so that next year, if you pass, you can go." Then unfortunately, I passed. Then my grandmother was like, he has to go. And my mother was like, "No, that's not the point." And then there was a fight. There was a whole thing that I had my mother stay in her father's house for like 6 months.
Wow.
Right? It was a whole drama, and I did not understand what was going on. I was 8 years old. So I eventually went, but of course I was young and I had grown on in the streets. Like I lived in the ghettos, in the face me and face yous, and I was friends with all the gangsters in the area, and they used to smoke and everything. I used to just be there and watch them, and they were mentoring me to become a gangster as well, right? So I went to one of the most notorious secondary schools in Ibadan at the time, St. Patrick's.
St.
Patrick's, though.
Right? So I went in there. I was 8 years old again.
Ibadan.
I met a lot of like gangster boys, people who were all the people that are doing gangster now. They are not gangsters. If you meet the real gangsters of
You
those
go
days,
on.
you know, and somehow, unfortunately, I was also brilliant, so I used to somehow manage to pass. But when I was going into, so I did JSS1, JSS2 in Fragment College, then I left, not Fragment, sorry, Sparko. JSS1, JSS2, when I go into JSS3, they promoted me on trial. My father was like, no child of his will be promoted on trial.
Yeah.
So they took me,
Yeah,
they thought that because they went to Mayflower and was a boarding house, and maybe I needed a boarding house. So they took me to Federal Government College, Ikiro. But of course, I managed to find the bad gang and join the worst gang.
Join them.
I liked when I have this conversation with people, I take responsibility for a lot of things. People are always like, "Oh, you are young, you did not know." But no, I knew what I was doing.
We knew. We actually knew.
yeah.
Right?
We knew.
So I take responsibility for my own notoriety. I knew what I was
We
doing.
knew. We all knew.
It was the way that I thought
Yeah,
was how to
that
live
was
life.
how
So
life
we
was.
went to Valley and I'll just be with those words and I'll do smoking. I was like maybe 9, 10 years old. I went to Federal Government College and I joined the bad gang again. And at some point they threatened me that if I come back, they would kill me. So the next season, my father asked me, when I was in JSS3 going to SS1, my father asked me if I wanted to go back and I said no. So I came back to Lagelu. Right? So I did Lagelu again, just 3 in Lagelu. And then my mother was like, well, she wanted us to go to private schools, blah, blah, yada, yada, which was one of the saving graces. Because when I look at how I grew up and the people that I grew up with, people don't typically make it out.
Oh, that's something.
That's system. Yeah.
I've got this very closely knit group of 7 friends who I know they won't judge me. I know they can be tough when they need to be, but they're not going to judge me, and they're just the safe space that I can go to even when I have like different issues that I think even the people closest to me in that way, maybe like partners or whatever, may not understand, and they help me get some clarity around those issues and also hold me responsible for a lot of the things that I do for my behavior. They're the people who tell me when I'm fucking up and who are also able to help me get perspective in situations that I'm not super clear about. So yeah, they know themselves. If it's just one person who feels like I'm stuck and I'm a young person, I don't know what to do next, I don't know this, I don't know that, I don't know how to do
your
it.
job.
Just be the guy who gets things done. It's the least that you can do. Whether within your family or within your friendship groups,
Your
or
streets.
on your streets,
Your
or whatever. Be
church,
the guy
your
who
mosque.
has made it your job to know
office.
how things get done. When you have that skill or that awareness, there's no limit to how high you can rise.
Shout out to Osage.
Yeah.
Shout out to Osage.
You want us to go from
said.
Adekunle Laru and then we can speak to Alhaji because I'm interested in
Alhaji
how
last. Alhaji last.
Yeah.
Alhaji is the wine.
You know,
Let's keep
you know what I
the
agree
wine
with,
last.
because whatever he
Please.
says basically will apply with, right?
Let's leave Alhaji last. Alhaji last.
You didn't expect it, did you? That it was gonna be this.
So, boom. I don't think that I have anything to say to my younger self like that because.
Okay.
So I think that I wouldn't. So I've never really seen myself as the victim, even in a negative situation.
Okay.
For some weird reason, I've just had that consciousness not to see it.
Keep it moving, man.
And how I just perceive it is, if this is happening, it's probably a lesson to be learned here.
Yeah.
So my perspective is always trying to highlight or focus on that lesson.
Okay.
Notwithstanding, I know that a couple of things that I could have done better while I was growing up, but I wouldn't call them. I wouldn't put them on the basis of a traumatic experience. The thing that I am dealing with now, that I can say would be at that level is, I am just realizing that I'm now at the age where my parents became parents.
Yes.
And
It changes the perspective. It changes everything.
I'm past that age so much. I don't pass that.
I mean, it's not something. It's not information that is readily available anywhere on the internet. Like you have to go and look for it. When kids come, they change. It
changes the dynamic.
I'm at a point in my life now where I'm going in a different direction for my brand, right? I'm also at the point where, when are you going to give me a grandchild? When are you going to marry? That, right? So you're not thinking, while I'm trying to pursue this thing to be a greater person or to be better as a man, I now also have to sacrifice that for the kids. Because if you're trying to, end generational trauma and you don't want to spill over to your kids, you have to be there for them.
Yes.
And you can't be there for your kids if you're not there for yourself.
Yes.
So everything it starts compiling. And, thinking about that, I go back and I think about some of the things my dad did.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? The truth of the matter is, when he had me, because I'm the first child, it was also his first time. He was also just figuring it out.
Yes.
He probably made mistakes unintentionally, right? Maybe he was also trying to be better as a person. The pressure was too much. So many.
They were reacting in the moment
And
to
I'm like,
things that they didn't have control over.
And I'm like, you know what? I actually get it.
I get
now.
it.
I won't
As
tell
an
him.
adult now.
I won't tell him that, obviously, because he has a responsibility as a father and as a husband, right? And
so let me push this to you, right? Let me push this to you. So I think there was a rap song I heard that said, social media is our own version of a nuclear weapon. Like social media, the way we're like basically suggesting like its impact. We underrate it, but it's heavy. Now, a lot of us gladly grew up without
Social
that
media,
particular type of influence.
Yep,
So
yep.
things were not amplified. We didn't feel at 18, like, where's my life going? Trust me, kids at 18 now are bothered that
It has come down.
Because of
It's not
social
15.
media.
He's even getting
15.
15 now.
I've got
Because
a
of
cousin.
social
Even
media.
10, they'll tell you that
who is
they
12?
are playing games and
12?
making
And
money.
he's
like,
asking me,
when I want to be,
I
so
say, I
the
want to
pressure
do
on
this.
them,
I'm like,
the pressure
what
on them
the
is going to be
heck?
so
12?
heavy.
Yeah.
So with that as a factor, right, knowing how you evolved, what would you advise a young person with all that overstimulation?
Yeah, it's my birthday, so and I've
Hey,
read,
happy
birthday.
I've read a lot of messages about me today, and I'm wondering,
Me,
right? And it's a lot of it has been centered around how I've helped people. So, like I said, I didn't grow up in the type of household that was toxic or whatnot.
Yeah.
My parents were always there. And I grew up in the type of household where you say it takes a village to raise a hero.
Raise a child.
Holidays, I was never in my house.
Yeah.
I was either at a cousin's place. So I grew up with a lot of role models. Now, my role models didn't just extend to the good role models. I had bad role models. Between the age where you could pick up the most bad habits, which is between the ages of 13 and 16,
16, yeah.
the people I was relating more with were Agberos. Because my house was on Lagos Abeokuta Expressway. At the bus stop. Right? So I'm coming out, the first people I'm
Which one
seeing
boss of super abuse?
no, Ijaye.
Yeah, right in the middle.
So, I mean,
Camera! Off.
so I'm coming out and I'm seeing this type of
Not till you
people.
want to hear again.
Right? I'm seeing this type of people. I'm meeting the same type of people that, when, back then, social media was more of, you go to the bus stop, there's a plethora of newspapers and everybody's reading and commenting.
reads,
So those are the environments I grew up in later at that age.
Yeah.
And I was picking a lot. Now, my father always said something. If you are confused about anything, ask me. If I am not there, look for a book that addresses it. That's why I said,
Oh, that's
a
deep
lot
stuff.
of
you
things
get that,
about
man?
me, I always turn to books.
I didn't.
Right? So, which is why these days I say there's a lot of democratizing of information, but people are reading things that they shouldn't read. They shouldn't be focusing on, right? The wrong information is being passed across. A lot of information is being watered down. If I was in that, maybe I would probably be a spoiled child right now, a spoiled human being right now, because of the type of information that is being passed. But then there was concrete information.
Yes.
Right.
Verified.
It wasn't. It wasn't about. This is my opinion about stuff. People were researching.
This is it.
And passing out information. Now it's. This is what I've heard.
That's what I feel.
This is my mentality about it, and I'm going to write about that.
And then we
mentality.
internalize it.
So I had.
Yes,
I'll
the
say my
worst
life was. My life was. I had mentors everywhere. I had good mentors. I had bad mentors. But with the bad mentors, I could decipher how will this help me. Right? Is this leading me to doom, or is this going to help me? Right? I mean,
that gave you native intelligence.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm not ashamed to say this. I started smoking at the age of 13. I was in SS1, just 3 years SS1.
About that time.
Right? I started drinking even before I finished secondary school.
It's weird.
But the funny thing was,
I'm the opposite.
there are people who started with me at that moment, and right now they are nowhere to be found and all that. Or people who started early are nowhere to be found. But with me, I could tell early that
This is bad.
is bad. Take it in moderation.
This is your limit.
Right. So one of the things that led me to HR was my life experiences. In fact, I was good with people. I was good with speaking to people, interacting with people, just helping people and whatnot, understanding people. I think one of the things I'm good at is understanding human beings. I can blend with every type of person right now.
That's a good deal.
I'm that kind of person.
Yeah.
Put me in any environment, I'll blend. Having a community, basically. I mean, every sphere of my life, I've had to deal with something, and just having a community around me just to address some of those things, whether it's a community on work, a community on relationship, a community on family. I mean, just having that set or group of people, ready to listen and just prefer a solution to you has helped me in every area of my life. So basically, younger self, have a village of mentors, but distinguish between right and wrong. Ask questions when you need to ask questions. I mean, from there, the road is smooth. That's it.
Fair deal. That's a fair deal.
Fair.
Yes,
Very
indeed.
fair. Very fair.
I mean, it's good to applaud.
very fair.
Because I think obviously, the obvious place we're going now is obviously to
Daddy.
Alhaji.
Daddy.
Right? Yes. Save the best for last. So with everything that's been said.
Well, firstly, I'm truly delighted to be part of
It's our pleasure.
today's conversation.
Yeah.
And I can tell you also that I've learned quite a lot from you guys. And you have indeed dropped a lot of gems here today, at least for people watching, particularly our younger people out there. Yeah. This kind of exercise that we've been through all through today, it's in line with what our ancestors did in their time, communal approach to solving problems. Now, because over time we lost that. Because if you remember back in those days, we lived together with our cousins, our brothers, whatever it is. So the village of mentors that Laru highlighted, I think we got it from there. Although you get both positive and negative. Yeah. So the challenge will now be to filter and say, okay, this is good for me, this is not so good for me. But at times it's always also good to try the negative, so that you get the impact and it becomes a learning point for you.
Yeah.
So I think what we can advocate, with all of you guys here now, is to try to get to do this more offline, as we encourage our youths to have this kind of session. It can be offline, so that people unburden their minds, say stuff, and then you learn from each other. And that way, most of the misinformation that we have all over social media now,
Can be correct.
yeah, I mean, you have a way of mitigating it with what is real and what is unreal. Yeah, I think we should encourage this more offline, and we can also be advocates of it. I am really happy that I'm part of this program today. Yeah. And I think for our younger ones, we should do this a lot more. It helps.
Makes sense. Yes. Invest in friendships.
By the way, we were talking before we were rolling. You know, you are slightly retired now, but not retired.
Yeah.
And I was saying that the solution is to take a younger wife. Am I
Please, Madam, watch this video. I'm not part of the
not for anything else.
Anyway, I'm also not there in case Madam is watching. But I think, when you retire, it's not as if you have stopped living.
Yes.
For me, what I do, maybe what my retirement has helped me to do now is that I get more involved in extended family matters and really helps. So I apply my experiences of interaction with people, other families during my service years, because I was, let me say, incidentally, unfortunately, I was like a weekend dad, because I was
circumstances.
I was sales manager. I worked for Nigerian brewers, so I was all over the place. So my family based in Lagos. So it taught me a lot of stuff. That family is everything, because most of the societal problems that we have now is as a result of family structure breakdown. Because now the family makes up the community, the society, like that.
At large.
At large. So, and once there's a fracture in the family structure, everything else scatters. And from all the contributions that I've heard from speakers, everything, when you look at the root of it, it's from that family.
It's the family.
Yeah. So, and some of the things that we can pass on to the younger ones is we have to find a way to rebuild that structure. Yeah. Because most of the parents that we have nowadays are parents that did not really enjoy being raised properly. And what you don't have, you can't give. So we have a lot of parents now who are actually toddlers in the real sense of the word. Yeah. Because somebody who does not really enjoy the opportunity of getting raised by a proper family
in a
setting.
structure.
So how do you expect such to raise? And that's why we have a lot of parents now becoming too friendly with their children. So, and with that, any child that you don't let realize that the parent is the boss, of course, because it's important. Because every child, the way we're programmed is you want to do anyhow and do anything you want. But you need that parental structure to say, hey, don't do that here.
My mother used to say, this is not the democracy.
It's not. It's actually not. Not a democracy. I read something about somebody who wrote that in the family structure, that who is the most important. Some people say, it's the children, our children. They are not. So the writer disagreed and said, see, the most important people in the family is the father and the mother. Because if anything happens to them, then
dysfunction.
So, and that's why it's important that the father and the mother, they focus well on each other to ensure that when there's a lot of harmony, it will impact on the kids. But if it is the other way around, your kid now becomes your king, my princess, and then you are deferring to them, that's where we have all this dysfunctional. That's it.
All right, so it looks like there's supposed to be boxes, like to say, hey, we've shared, we've had communion.
Lots of communion. Lots.
So
The table was prepared before us in the presence of our enemies.
So what's the best way to wrap this up? All right, so
Oh my
goodness.
Okay. Oh Jesus.
This
nice,
is
so nice. I think I say teddy bear there. Who's the teddy bear?
Teddy.
I'm joking.
No. Waiting me that one now.
Oh, is this for me?
Yeah.
It's not my birthday. oh.
So, yeah.
Oof.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you very much.
Your name. Oh, okay.
Can I pick
No,
the woman that was
It's branded.
Nice.
I'm not gel. Looks really nice.
Well, this is very loaded.
Yeah, it is.
Thanks for sharing as much as you guys did.
Very, very,
It's
very,
not
very,
my-
very nice. Very nice. It's not something you're used to.
It's not something
you
that
very
I
much, man.
would normally
you.
do.
Yeah.
It's not.
At least,
Your only birthday present.
I know where all my perfumes. No, not all my perfumes. But most of my perfumes will enter here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lohli.
Yeah, so I guess yeah, that basically does it.
Yes, the box. Yes.
That
We
basically
used to
does
say
it.
in Ibadan.
And
Ilé-iṣẹ́ yóò ní jóná.
Oh boy.
All right, thanks. Shola, you were saying.
no, it's a wrap now.